Okay, I think we can kick it off. Let's get it going. We got kind of a lot to cover, and I really want to make sure we have enough time to do some Q&A at the end. So, welcome in everybody. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Kenny, and I am on the community team here at Whatnot. And so, my role, as you can see here on screen, is community manager. And what that really means is the community team. We are a team of three, and we build programs that aim to educate sellers so they can be as successful as possible while also building this sort of human to human connection and creating a sense of belonging. And so we do it through webinars. And we also do it through this account on Whatnot. So this is the Whatnot Sellers account. And we go live from this account a couple times a month. And we do various types of shows. And so sometimes we'll interview a seller, like I have today. I've got Cindy. Sometimes we'll interview somebody from Whatnot, like a product manager, and we'll be talking about new product features and updates and things like that. And so, make sure you're following this account if you are a Whatnot seller and you're interested in, staying current on the latest and greatest and also like on education for sellers. And we do have shows, I believe, scheduled out through the end of the year. So you can see we got some cool stuff lined up. I know next month we're going to be talking about show production quality. So video, audio, and all that kind of stuff. Make sure you bookmark that if you're interested. And yeah, we'd love for you to come through these shows. Today we're going to be talking with Cindy, who I've come to know now for quite some time and kind of through Whatnot, and most recently had a conversation with her a couple of weeks ago to better understand her story. And she has a pretty remarkable story, as most Whatnot sellers do, right? It's always kind of a cool story to hear, but I think Cindy's is really special. And so I'm really excited to kind of get into that. And so I'm going to be interviewing Cindy today, and we're going to be kind of talking through her experience as a Whatnot seller. She's going to share some of the challenges, how she overcame them, some of best practices that she's learned along the way. And then, of course, share a little bit about the success that she's been enjoying on Whatnot lately. And so with that, I'm going to just kick it off or hand it off, excuse me, to Cindy. Cindy, if you would just maybe give us like an introduction, who you are, where you're from, before we jump into the interview itself.
Yeah, of course. Well, for whoever doesn't know me, my name is Cindy. Our account here on Whatnot, it's Moms and Crowd. We live in Southern California. I'm a mom of four kiddos, so we're a family of six with my husband. We've been on Whatnot for 3 years and a half already, and we are super excited to see just kind of the growth that we had. A lot of people ask me, what do you were before Whatnot? A stay-home mom. Literally, four kiddos. It's for all the moms out there. You know how hard it is to run a business with kids. But yes, that's what we are, and excited to be here.
Amazing. So how long have you been on Whatnot as a Whatnot seller? So when did you first start on Whatnot?
My first show was on June 17, 2022. I know the
Wow.
date exact.
2022. Okay. So what? That's a good amount of time. And so I know that a lot has changed both on the platform since then and also just in your personal journey. And I think maybe we'll start your story even before Whatnot, because you had shared with me that prior to joining Whatnot, you had tried other e-commerce. I think it was Amazon FBA, and it didn't really go so good. So maybe tell us about that, because I think, I was really inspired by sort of the challenge that you had there, and then the confidence and sort of like determination to try to do it something else and to do it here on Whatnot. So for those who don't know your story, do you mind kind of telling us where it all began for you?
Yeah, I mean, it all begins when since we started having kids with my husband, we always had the thought of like kind of trying to figure it out a second stream of income so I can stay home, with the kids. We didn't want to take the kids to daycares or kind of having someone else to take care of our kids. So the main goal always was like kind of to find, something that it could help us, and not just my husband kind of working out through the finances, but something extra. So we kind of tried different things, like many things fail, but the biggest one was Amazon FBA. One time I saw a video and I thought I could do it. We had some savings and we were like, okay, let's go open. Every time we always had the mindset that every time that you are investing in something, you have to go all in and see if it actually is going to work, right? So we put all of our savings in there and start kind of the Amazon FBA journey. But then we realized that it was a lot. I remember staying at night at 4 in the morning trying to figure out all of the details of what Amazon FBA had. And we were just losing money instead of like kind of, getting with profit. We know every time that you open a business, you know that you're going to have some losses, but on that was like every month, like we were like approximately 9 months trying just to kind of make it work and everything. As soon as we done with the savings, it's like Amazon sent us a letter saying, hey, you know what? There's a period of time where you can have the inventory in warehouse. Now we have to liquidate it. That moment for us was like, okay, we put all of our money on savings. Now they're going to liquidate the inventory. And now we have nothing. Like literally, we ended up with nothing, with no inventory, with no money. And it was very frustrated, for us as that was the only thing that we had. We didn't have like extra more money to kind of go in there. So besides of like kind of not just putting our savings in there, but not now we literally acquired at a whole debt. We were like 60,000, over $60,000, that besides our savings and everything, it was gone. So at the moment I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I don't know, like if I could do this again. The entire moment for me, I remember my husband coming from work and find me crying and, in the living room, because just kind of thinking of it, like, our savings was my husband time. Like literally he was hustling, working, putting money aside so we could do something. So for me, it was very frustrated that everything was gone. So I told my husband, you know what? I think I'm just going to dedicate myself to take care of the kids and probably find a part-time job. And I remember my husband's words and said, okay, I'll give you a break. You have 2, 3 weeks to rest, but remember something. And I remember he told me, this is not over until we win. And those words like kind of stick in my head. I was like, okay, well, how we win when we don't have money and we don't have nothing else to invest? So from there, I literally took a break and I didn't have a plan. I didn't know how to start a new journey. I didn't know exactly like, how from coming like literally from nothing to go to something else. So from there, that's when the Amazon FBA journey ended. And I was just a stay-home mom from there.
Well, I don't think it's just a stay-at-home mom. I think that's like the hardest job in the world,
Yeah.
probably. But that's a phenomenon. I mean, look, that must have been so hard, right? Because you guys took your savings, all your savings, and invested it into something that you were hoping would be successful, and it didn't work out the way you had hoped. But I guess beyond having a really supportive husband who believed that, it ain't over till it's over, which I think is really incredible. What gave you the confidence to, start all over and start on Whatnot to give this platform a chance, right? Because in 2022, like Whatnot was still we're still in early days. So back then it was like truly very early. How did you hear about Whatnot? And then what made you think like, okay, that one thing didn't work for me. I'm going to try this thing called Whatnot. Help me understand that and what went through your mind.
Yeah, I think at that point I just felt that I had a huge backpack full of failures. Like I didn't have anything good to say about. So I didn't plan actually going, oh, you know what? I found this app. What now? Let's go and do this whole business. Everything actually started with my neighbor's trash. And I always gonna share my story with my neighbor's trash. Like literally, after talking with my husband saying that, well, let's figure it out if we can find something else. I remember my neighbor having this huge Hawaiian party. And, a couple of days later, she came in with a huge box with all of the decoration that she used from that party to throw it on the trash. We kind of met, and the trash bins on the back of our houses. And I was like, how dare you going to throw that in the trash? And she's like, I don't have space and time. For me, like my head, it was like, man, that's such a treasure. You can just flip it and make, some $20. For my surprise, a couple days later, someone messaged me. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm having a huge Hawaiian party and this is just perfect. And I was like, okay, well, I'll list it for $100 if you want it. So she came and she was so grateful and she gave me $150. I was like, oh my gosh, my kids were so excited. So kids, right away, they wanted to go and buy candies. I was like, hey, wait, what if we can turn this $150 into something else? So I remember, we waited for the weekend and we would start going to estate sales. And I was like, okay, let's see what we can find and flip it again. So we started buying like small pieces of furniture. We had a minivan. So whatever could fit in our minivan, we bought some small dresses, some lamps, and we put it on Facebook Marketplace. And those $150 next weekend turned into $500. We were like, oh my goodness, this flipping thing is so good. In that journey, like probably a month or two, I noticed something in the state sale, yard sales and all of that people were having so much clothes to sell. People were just want to get rid of clothes. And I was like, well, where I could sell clothes. That's when I opened an eBay account trying to figure it out. Probably I didn't know nothing about brands. Never thought Lululemon, that was not even on my language. So I just grab a few pieces of clothing and start posting it on eBay, and the clothes started selling. I was so amazed to see that the clothing was selling on eBay. So I started selling a few things, probably a couple months. We had over $5,000 on eBay. So it was like, okay, this is something good. We're making a little bit of money. Probably this could be our side hustle. So I decided to open a TikTok account and just kind of share my journey. Let's go what I can find on this jar sale, let's see how I can flip it. And then I saw this influencer, don't remember the name of this guy. And there he was talking about this app, Whatnot. I was like, Whatnot? What is Whatnot? I went on my phone and kind of download the app, and I saw all of this bunch of people like kind of selling that kind of different stuff and kind of got my attention. At the beginning, never thought that this was going to be something for me to do. For me, I saw it as like, oh, what if I source something and I can go sell it on eBay? So I bought a few things and I started selling them on eBay and I started making some profit out of those things. Until one time, this seller was like, why you don't apply to be on Whatnot Seller? And I'm like, you think so? I don't know. I'm afraid to be on the camera. Well, he gave me the referral. I got approved to be a Whatnot Seller. And then entire fear came out of me to, I can't do this. Like, I'm not camera friendly. This is not something that I can actually do. I had at that point, I still like my baby was 6 months old. I had a still, pregnancy overweight. So there were so many things besides the whole feeling and emotions that we had for the other business. So it was very hard on me. So I remember scheduling my first show, went live, and I started crying like a little girl. 2 minutes later, ended up my show, and I was like, okay, babe, I can't do this. Like, this is not for me. Like, I cannot, like, just seeing myself in the camera is so weird. Like, like, how people do this? But from there is like, I think from that point, there are so many thoughts around me. Like, why I'm doing this? Like, why actually I want to get into this whole journey again, start something new, something that I don't know if it's going to work. At that point, I didn't have nothing to lose because I didn't have money. There was not like a big investment like I had it in the other journey. But I was literally in my mind, it was like, okay, we needed to find something. What if this is it? What if this is the opportunity that I've been looking for and my fears is stopping me for not going get it? So I remember my husband always like, come on, babe, you can do it. Like, I know you can. So I scheduled another show and I was like, we are the type of people who's like, okay, if the first time didn't work, let's give it a some. I was like, I'm gonna go live every day and see if this is.
Let me make sure I got the story right. So the first live stream on Whatnot did not go well, right? You were nervous, didn't know maybe how it works, etc. And then after that,
30 shows.
and did you make a commitment to go live 30 times no matter what?
I made a commitment with myself, thinking that, okay, if I'm gonna give this a try, I'm gonna try it right. So my entire goal was like probably not getting sales at the beginning. I think my main goal was overcoming my own fear. So the only way that I could overcome that fear is like doing it. So those 30 shows were mostly for overcoming my own fear more than just, okay, I'm gonna start making money just right away.
But I think look, that's such an important point. I wanna double click on it because look, if you're a new seller and you're listening to Cindy's story, I think this is really important, right? The number one question or the number one thing we try to recommend to sellers is to practice consistency. And consistency can mean a lot of different things to different people, but I think Cindy's version of consistency is one that I really like. And so she committed to 30 shows, right? I can do 30 shows. And then at the end of 30, you can say like, okay, what did I learn? Is it for me? Is there potential here, etc. But to commit and to be consistent, right? And to show up 30 times. And again, Cindy's talking about getting over a fear of being on camera. Like you see her now today, she seems very comfortable. I mean, I'd imagine she's come a very long way and kind of giving her 30 days to get used to being live, to being on camera, to doing the shows, all that, I don't want to like get ahead of the story here, but today she's running a very large, very successful business on Whatnot. And it's just amazing to me that it all started with a failure, so to speak. Well, a failure on a different e-commerce platform, and then even a small failure on your first show. But like the audacity to keep trying, like to keep showing up and to committing to it and to being consistent. I think that, you're such an inspiration with regards to like, hey, if you just stick to it and play the long game, good things will come, to pass. And so thank you for making that note because, some folks I think go live and it's not, they don't have 100 people in their room and they didn't sell 1,000 items and they're like discouraged and maybe they never come back, right? And whatnot is one of those things where it's like if you nurture it, it will grow. I've never seen it not. Even on my own experience, that's been the case. And so thank you for mentioning that. And then so how did you sort of navigate through those early challenges of like, not liking to be on camera or not understanding sort of how did this work? Like how did you, what how did you navigate that as someone who's trying to just figure it out?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of different parts playing it. Those 30 days for me were like kind of a big mark and at the beginning of my journey, because first, like I said, I needed to overcome the fear to being in front of the, and then another big thing that I had is like English is not my first language. Okay, so I messed up a lot. I mean, compare now to 3 years ago, me, I was like Spanglish, most of the time. And that was like another thing that was stopping me. Like, what if I say something wrong and someone laugh at me because I'm not pronouncing it correctly? So it was like so many different things. But the fact that, getting the commitment of the 30 shows, I remember the first probably 5, 10 shows, they were like literally 2 5-minute shows. They were not like literally something huge that I was going to do. Like, it was like mostly like kind of overcoming all of that, but like literally play a really huge part in this entire 30 days, it was Whatnot community. I think I wouldn't have done it with the people who, even if it was 2, 3 people in the show that just jump in, just like adding, and probably, seeing this girl crying because she couldn't even talk or she couldn't even do anything. I remember this lady, I don't know who she was, but she came in and she's like, honey, why are you crying? Are you okay? And I'm like, no, I can't do this. And she stayed over with me for the 5, 10 minutes. And she's like, just breathe. Tell me a little bit about you. What is your name? And she just started asking me these questions. And that kind of started giving me the confidence, just to kind of, okay, man, people here is really nice. The community here is so nice. So I just started having conversations. Like, I was like kind of turn on the camera and start kind of chatting with a friend. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence just to kind of come back and do it the next day. And then little by little, I was like probably learning the app because that's another total different thing. Like, okay, now I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable, but now it's like, okay, how this Whatnot works, like how I can create a listing. And there's an entire language, sometimes people say pin an item, like pin an item. Like, what do you mean pin an item? Like all of those things that for a person that is new, it's like you have to learn all of that language to kind of how the app works, learning about shipping. And I think when you commit to start learning all of those little pieces, then it's like, okay, you start feeling more confident, you start being yourself, people start getting to trust you. And then the sales are going to come as a result of you being consistent and you like literally understanding the app, understanding the shipping, and understanding the whole rest of the items.
So I love that, right? So community played a big role in sort of your early days on Whatnot. And I know that it plays an even bigger role today, but I think it's amazing that just, one stranger's kind words, right, can have this like impact on your entire trajectory and journey. And I think that I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat, when you mentioned that, Cindy, a lot of people were like, yeah, the community on Whatnot is the best thing. And it's really true. I mean, it's very special, right? Like where else can you go to like an e-commerce platform and see like people helping each other out and like this sort of like community vibe around various categories that people love, whether it's jewelry or whether it's sports cards or women's fashion. Like you find like your people on this app and it's like very, very good vibes. But I just love that that like one good word to a seller who might seem nervous or might seem like they're new and they're maybe like trying to figure it out, like the impact that can have is huge, right? I mean, yeah. So thank you, you mentioned that. And then look, you told me that you were able to pay off your big debt in just 6 months from Whatnot, which I think is amazing. What was that like to be able to pay off that big debt that, you had basically invested your life savings, now you owed the money, and now you turn to Whatnot, and 6 months later, you're able to pay off that entire debt. What was that like? How did that feel?
I mean, it felt amazing, like, I mean, after 30 days that we start doing shows, I kind of like, start getting the sense on how to sell on Whatnot. And and all of that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on, I'm gonna keep going. And then I start seeing results, I start seeing sales. And the money that we got from the $150 Hawaiian decoration, we brought it in. And with that same money, we went back again to Goodwill bins. Like kind of my schedule looked like kind of sourcing in the morning, doing shows at night every day. So at that point, when we had like 3,000, I mean, probably 3 months, we had like around 3,000 followers. I was like, what it will be if we hit a 10,000 followers for my birthday? My birthday is on Thanksgiving, November. So I made a commitment to hit 10,000 followers on November. So we started working super hard, going live, like as much as I could. By the way, a lot of people ask me, where were your kids? They were with me, next to me. They were literally people knew that I have 4 kiddos, that sometimes they will be running behind me or like kind of screaming. And that was me. So people kind of understood that part. So when we were like literally close to November, we were like in around the 50, like kind of 45, $48,000 mark, and we needed to pay the $60,000. So we created this 10,000 follower show, and we're like, okay, we're gonna go and try to make those, $12,000 that we needed to pay off those $60,000. So we created this huge, 10,000 follower show. We rented an Airbnb just to, they were literally 3 miles from home, just to kind of bring this whole inventory that we found on Goodwill bins and thrift stores. And we were on for 14 hours on Whatnot. 14 hours running shows. There were a lot of friends and other Whatnot sellers who came in and helped us, and I remember middle of the night, we saw the money coming in. Literally that show we did over $12,000, and that made literally completely what we needed to pay off the $60 that we own. I remember crying that day during the live, because I was telling people knew what was happening. I always was very open, like, hey, we need to pay this. We are paying so much interest. We need to like make them part of it. And people, were so happy. So for me, that was like, man, imagine for my birthday being financial free, even though after that we were having not even a penny because we're not going to need to have money after that because we have to literally pay 60,000 and that, that day. But the feeling though, the feeling is like, we did it. And we did it, the commitment, the nights that we were like literally sleeping super late at night, the kids crying and kind of working with us all the time, it paid off. So yeah, I mean, it felt amazing.
I bet. Yeah, it sounds amazing. Chat, if you've got any questions for Cindy about her story, about how she does what she does, drop it in the chat and we're going to be doing some Q&A towards the end of the interview. Cindy, you shared with me something that I thought was kind of funny. You said that like, your business was like growing and growing and eventually like the city came to your house and they were like, you can't like I guess there was just like a lot of trucks coming out and like packages, and they were just like, "What is going on here at this house?" And so, can you tell me how like that sort of, kind of forced you to move your business out of your garage, which also sort of changed the trajectory of your growth, right? Because you ended up taking a huge warehouse, which you're in right now, right? So, tell us about that. I thought that was wild and kind of funny, but also like a blessing in disguise, right?
Of course, yeah. So, I mean, we when we keep working on Whatnot, of course, there was the time it was like, okay, we kind of start saving money to buy our first pallet, and then we decided to buy a truckload and then a pallet again. So the sales are start growing. So we had to talk to USPS business so they can come. They used to come home like 2 times a day, and they're the huge trucks. They came in and pick up the packages, and then the big trucks that were coming just to leave pallets. Sometimes it was not just one pallet. Sometimes there were 24 pallets in my driveway. Even though my husband and I were super fast to kind of break down the pallets, and we were so tired, and we left 10 pallets in our driveway. That was it. Everything that it took for my neighbor to call the city. And then the next day, literally, this guy came in and, he had a lot of paperwork and said, okay, so we have a report that you are doing business from home. It's like, well, yeah, but it's legal. I have registered as a business. It's like, yes, but the amount of like movement that is in here, this is not a normal business anymore. Like you have 30 days to move your business out of your house. And we're going to come back in 30 days because we need to take pictures of this empty garage. And I was like, no, but how you can do this to me? Like, this is our business is like, we're growing. And he's like, well, maybe it's time to move to our warehouse. I was like, no, we're not ready. Like, At that point, we thought, okay, that's it. That's it. Whatnot is gone for us. It's not going to work for us anymore. What are we going to do? In that point, we had an entire truckload of inventory in our house, and they give us 30 days to move everything out of there. So everything, all the frustration, everything that what we were going to do, what if this doesn't work? The story, hey guys, city report me, we need to sell everything. And people were super excited with me. So literally they were 10-hour shows and we sold every single piece on Whatnot in less than 30 days. Everything was out. I remember going around my house like, hey, we have this 100 shoes in here. Are you guys ready? They start running every pair of shoe, like everything that we had. And then we sold it. Like literally we sold, that was like a record, that we sold so many items in less than 30 days. So at that point, we were like so many decisions that we needed to make. Is this like literally the end of our business? Or actually, this is something that is going to change? So at the beginning, my husband is like, okay, first, we need to rest. It has been 20 days. They're being super, super hard, selling as much as we can, packaging so many items. So we took a 2 weeks vacation, on that month. And then we came back and it started kind of, okay, let's start to search for a warehouse and see how it goes. And we found one that it was double or garage. Was like, okay, probably this one is the perfect one. We moved into that warehouse. It's like, we're probably gonna need help. I don't think, you and me and another friend could kind of do the work in a warehouse. But 2 months later, we realized this warehouse was way too small for us. So we were like on the same parking lot, a 10,000 square warehouse, kind of open space. We moved, like literally, I remember calling the owners, like, can we see that warehouse? My husband and I came in and there was so many flashes. I couldn't explain what happened to me that day, but I remember standing in that middle of that warehouse that it was like huge, the echo on the warehouse, but I could see the business right there. Like many different rooms, the streamers all over, packaging team over here, my office over there. Like literally there was this whole vision that came to me and my husband was like, okay, well, let's do it. So that's when we decided to move to a 10,000 square warehouse. I was afraid. Oh, yeah, because the overhead just went to almost $20,000 a month, and it was like insane. We needed to hire people. We start hiring so many different people. We have right now 15 employees with the streamers, packaging team. We have virtual assistants. I mean, there is just so much. Like from that, I think at the moment it was something that, probably our business ended. But no, actually was a trampoline to push us to actually grow. Like on that point, we had a year that we made $1 million on that year from home. We ended up with $3 million business last year. So of course, having more people, having more space, having more shows, more sales, and everything. So, and every came in like literally from that failure that we had from Amazon FBA, my neighbor's trash, to having now a 3 million business. Like it's been,
That is so amazing. What's going through my mind right now is that like, okay, you were a stay-at-home mom of 4 children, which is a lot, and now you're the boss of a 10,000 square foot warehouse and 15 employees. Plus, you still have the 4 kids. So, like, what? So, first of all, like, what are some of the leadership lessons that you learned to be able to manage 15 people, in a giant warehouse? Like, it's not like you've been practicing that your whole life, and it kind of happened rather quickly, right? And so, like, what are some leadership tips or anything that you could share with us on how do you go about managing those people?
yeah, as soon as we moved to the warehouse, literally everything changed because what it was working from, it didn't work on the warehouse. And my husband is like, okay, whatever we were doing over there, the system that we have over there, it's gone. Like here is like total different monster that we need to tackle. My husband was not fully in, like seriously, he was like having 2 different jobs because he had, his regular job. We had another business. We have another business, which is an auto repair shop. So he was taking care of that. And then at night, he came with me, kind of to brainstorm on how we can handle this. And then there's like this whole bunch of things that I didn't know, payroll. Oh, now we have to take care of insurance. Oh my goodness. It was like literally nights of like kind of brainstorming and trying to research and see like how we can gonna handle all of this. But I think little by little with my husband, we kind of start getting like kind of creating systems around the business. And I think that is what it kind of helped us because at the beginning it was like a whole mess. Like everything was messy because we didn't know we were having so much sales. But now we kind of create a whole system of like, okay, we need to have different teams that are in charge of everything because we cannot do everything. And I think the fact that we needed to let go and said, hey, now we need literally people to help us to kind of go to this. Like moms and Croms, Cindy cannot take care of shows, shipping, managing, everything else and managing the suppliers and inventory. And there was like so many pieces now in the table that my husband and I were not like, super people that can manage all of that. I think it's the moment that we realize, okay, we need to create systems around our business and kind of hiring people to help us. Like now we have like someone who managed the streamer teams, and now we have someone who help us remotely, helping us with customer service and things like that. But I think it just came, like literally because there was not a blueprint. I wish there was a blueprint that we can follow. Oh, this is the way on how you could do it. No, I was like literally we were opening our own path and how we were can make it work for us. And we still have a lot to learn, but yeah, I mean, it's been a learning experience for sure.
Very inspirational. The chat is loving the story. Kind of the just the come up is incredible. Look, there's some more questions I want to ask you. Maybe we kind of rapid fire through these. We'll go quickly through them, and then we'll get to some of the questions from the chat. Okay, so let's do that. So you do have a lot of people now that are hosting shows for you. Doing the live streams, but you have chosen to keep hosting shows yourself, right? Why is that important to you as you kind of build your brand?
Because I'm the face of my brand in a way. So, people is used to me and I care about the people. Like I think even though like if I'm not live, like kind of like it makes my soul sad. Like kind of every time that I go live and I kind of connect with people, it's like kind of I'm an energy bunny, like kind of just connecting with people and being there, having conversations and always like kind of my passion now. Like, I'm so passionate of being in front of the camera now and connecting with people and knowing about everything that is happening. And just to kind of share super quick, I know we are on the time, but there was this person who came in a few days ago at my shows and I started making her a mod, and she was like a sweet lady. And she sent me this email saying like, you have changed my life completely by making me a mod. And I was like, I thought that was so sweet about it. But then she told me that she had something in her brain that she was forgetting things and that she needed to exercise her brain in a way that she didn't know how to do it. And being a mod and kind of repeating in the chat whatever I was saying, it helped her so much that not even the doctors, the medicine that I give the doctors to her will have helped her to do that, but more than just being active. And that makes me realize the responsibility that we have streamers, the be in front of the camera is a huge responsibility because we don't know who it is in the other side of the camera. You don't know who you're helping just by smiling and connecting with someone and saying something kind in the camera. And that literally right there is, I'm so passionate about that. So as right now, we decided that I'm always going to have my time of streaming at night. People just can come and hang out with me.
So it's just so cool there, right? Because you started off, you didn't like being in front of the camera at all. It was something that created, anxiety and whatever. And now you love it. And it's just, isn't that cool? Like that's such a cool journey that you've had. What are, I guess, I'm trying to pick a couple more questions here. So you've inspired a lot of stay-at-home moms, right? And smaller sellers. What message do you hope that they take away from your journey, right? So if there are any stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads that are tuned in right now and considering doing a side hustle, what would you tell those people?
I think the first thing is like, don't let the failures define who you are. Like I think everybody is going to have failures in life, but the moment that you decide to not let that define who you are, and kind of keep working on whatever, life has for you. Sometimes we're going to be afraid of doing something or we're going to have so much fear because we don't know exactly what, how things work. But I think doing things, even when you are afraid and you will find whatever it is, like what is your purpose in life? I really believe about the purpose in life that once you find it, man, it's incredible because you kind of start growing. But seriously, the moment that you let that the failure define who you are as a person, you're gonna lose. you're gonna lose. And I'll say, whatever it seems, I know sometimes it seems scary, like kind of, oh, I'm being in front of the camera, or I don't know, I don't have money, or I don't have the inventory, or things like that. But I mean, just keep working through and being consistent. And this kind of applies in everything in life, not necessarily just one night.
I love that. Yeah. I have failed a lot in my life too. And I wouldn't be where I'm at without those failures. Right. And so if you're not failing, maybe you're doing it wrong. I don't know. Feel like
Exactly.
that's the message you're sending, Cindy. I like it. What is one action, one thing that you would suggest for new sellers that are attending this that they tried this week? If you had to just say one thing, what is it? And it could be as simple as just go live, for a minimum of whatever, an hour. Like what would be the one thing that you would recommend?
Don't overthink it. Like, stop overthinking it. Just go and do it. I think sometimes we overcomplicate stuff. It's like, just go do it. You probably, as soon as you do it, you're going to realize it wasn't that bad.
Just do it. Just go live. Yeah. I like that because sometimes, one of the things that I hear from talking to sellers is they're waiting for the perfect time to do their first show, right? They want the perfect inventory. They want to have 1,000 bookmark, like whatever it is in their mind that
Mhm.
they set this goal that like they will go live if this is perfect. And then they achieve that thing and then they go live and then their show necessarily isn't as good as they had hoped, or it is, but the truth is, like, they just say, like, "Oh, man, I wish I would've gone live sooner." Like, it's not like, there is no such thing, as perfect. Perfect is, like, the enemy of good, right? Get those lives under your belt. Start going live, slowly, slowly build a following. Slowly, slowly, figure out your inventory, your sourcing, your operations. All
Mhm.
that stuff will come, but I think in order for it to come, you gotta, like, start somewhere, right? And so if you're spending all this time kind of planning a grand strategy and then you'll go live only if and when those things are in place. I think that's probably Cindy is saying don't do that. I think she's saying just pull the band-aid off, go for it. It might not be the best right away, but like again, anything that is if you build it, they will come, right? Like that movie Field of Dreams, if y'all have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Like it's really good advice, especially for Whatnot. Like Whatnot is not a get rich quick scam. Like people are building legitimate multi-million dollar businesses here. And just like every other business, you got to start and then learn and fail and learn and fail and grow. And like, it's a grind, right? It's a long game that you got to play. And so get started today. Like, there's no better time than today to start. Did I get that, Cindy? Is that what you
Yeah,
were
that's exactly what.
I love it. Okay, look, this has been amazing, and the chat is really appreciative of you kind of, sharing it, right? The failures and the success. Let's take some questions from the chat, and then what we're going to do after that is actually your account is live right now, so we're going to raid into your account. So folks who are not familiar with you can check you out and check out kind of what kind of inventory you're doing and what types of shows you're hosting. And so I've got about 10 questions here. Let's keep them short and we could just try to get through as many as we can, Cindy. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. First question is coming from Groovy Gal 1808. What did you sell and how has your inventory changed over time?
Yeah. So I mean, what I started selling literally was items that I was finding on estate sales and yard sales. Like literally that was the inventory. I didn't have money to go buy, not even on thrift stores at that point. So going to estate sales and yard sales, literally buying a whole trash bag full of clothes for 25 cents per piece. That's how I started on Whatnot. As soon as I had the community, I had built the audience. A year later, I was like, okay, probably I'm ready for a pallet, and that's when I bought my first pallet and I realized, okay, how quickly I can sell it. And then little by little, I think a year and a half in is when I bought my first truckload of inventory.
Again, it kind of goes back to the previous message, right? Start small, start somewhere, start with whatever you've got, and then grow, as you grow, then that might change. That's incredible. Next question comes from Patsy Sum. What's the best way to find a place to source from? And I know like we're not asking you what are your sources, but like if I was gonna say, hey, like I'm new, I'm interested in sourcing inventory. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say a couple tips. First of all, is like you have to do your homework. I hear a lot of people's like, "Oh, I'm so scared because I'm gonna get a scam." I got scammed many times, but I think it's like you need to do your homework. Now we have a huge tool that I don't know if a lot of people is using it, but Chat GPT. I mean, seriously, Chat GPT, everybody use it. It's free, by the way. But if you find a company on Google or on Facebook and you wanna buy from that company, go to ChatGPT and tell them, "Hey, can you make a research on this company?" And it give you literally a whole report. It kind of give you it has bad reviews anywhere on the internet. If it has any flaws or something that it kind of gonna cut your attention. As soon as you have that report, go make sure that that business at register on the BBB. And you have to do your homework. As soon as you have all of that homework, okay, give it them a call. Go if you can go to the place and try to, and see if the company is legit. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were asking me about how I find that specifically company. Well,
Yeah.
there is many places. Facebook Marketplace was literally the first place where I found that liquidator. I went and I tried to find someone that is local to me because sometimes we want to buy inventory that it's the other side of the country, and then you're gonna have to pay shipping. And what if the inventory is not good as you thought? So going to that place and kind of seeing the inventory, I think is the best way on how you can start buying pallets, something local to you. But yes, I mean, just do your homework. And one more thing that I really want to say, I wish Whatnot Wholesale was back when I started.
Right.
Seriously, we have it right here.
Correct.
Everybody,
I was just mention that.
if you go to the wholesale category here on Whatnot, man, there is so much good inventory here that I sometimes like, whoa, I really even want to buy that pallet, that someone is selling. Like, use the wholesale category here on Whatnot. There's not just pallets that they're selling, but they're case bags, they're reseller boxes. There's no excuses for everyone to say, oh, I cannot do a show because I don't know where to source. Start here on Whatnot, buy a reseller box and start doing your shows, and then you probably can buy a pallet. And the craziest part, the one that is free shipping, like go outside and try to find free shipping in any of the liquidators. That is not gonna happen. You can buy free shipping in here if you buy a pallet and Whatnot. So
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, chat, if you didn't know, there is a wholesale category on Whatnot. I was actually watching a show today, Cindy. Seller name was Out There Flippin', and they had I was almost gonna buy this pallet. I don't know what the heck I would do with it, but it seemed like such a good deal. It was like 300 items, free shipping, like you said, and just like it was like Nike trainers and Carhartt hoodies and like all this inventory that like is good,
yeah.
not junk. And it was like it went for such a good price. I was like, oh my God, like if I wasn't working out Whatnot full time, I would totally buy this and sell it. And so like, yeah, you don't have to look very far, but also like what Cindy said, it's like use ChatGPT. I actually did that, Cindy. My nephew and I sat down one day and we're located in North Central Florida. What are some liquidators around me? And he gave me a list of liquidators. And then what you're saying is reach out, go visit them, sniff it out, see if it's legit, if you like the people, whatever. It's not rocket science, chat, but you do have to do your homework, like Cindy said. I think a lot of people are looking for a quick fix, like a golden bullet, like one answer that's gonna like pallets are just gonna magically show up at their house. It's like it is a hustle and it is a grind and you gotta go look for it, but they're out there. So thank you for that, Cindy. Next question from Maytera says, Cindy, would you take 2 weeks off now with no employees to run the shop in your place? Would you take 2 weeks off now with no employees to run the I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe they're asking if like
With employees. Maybe
yeah,
she's asking with employees. Actually, we did this summer for the first time. We decided to took not 2 weeks, but 4 weeks off. We went to Hawaii for an entire month and I didn't have to work a thing. Like I had streamers making shows. I had the packaging team packaging and I was literally off. So I could go on a vacation and literally Moms and Crumbs is gonna still working because we have built, a team that it's there. Obviously, I have to go live because I just miss my people and, probably just go live and do a giveaway and show them whatever I'm doing. But most of them, like I could have like literally not gone live at all. And the business is still working on the back end.
that's amazing. Well, a lot of hard work to get there, that's for sure. Next question comes from Lipstick and Larceny. How do you set up your camera? Do you use your phone or your webcam, or do you use OBS?
I don't use OBS. I'm very bad at it. So but I use phones. We have like literally 5 different phones in the warehouse that we use. We have a regular tablet sometimes, just to kind of read the comments and things. But I just stream from my phone. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the phone is the best and easy way on how you can stream, and especially with the quality of camera that iPhones has now.
Awesome. I love it. Also, I see a comment here saying, please post this on YouTube. We will. We have. We started posting these shows on YouTube. So if you want to see this after the fact, you can, search for the Whatnot official Whatnot seller shows. Also, there's a playlist of a bunch of tutorials, which are really great if you're a new seller just starting out and you want to kind of like see some quick videos on how to do things. So you can check that out. But yeah, this will be on YouTube probably later in the week. Okay, next question is from Manic Mandy. How do you get people to stay in your shows and actually buy?
Well, I think it's like you have to build an audience. You have to find your tribe. Like, I think little by little, you are going to build the connections with people. I think a lot of times when we started, I mean, I did that. I was trying to create the shows very serious, like kind of sticking just with selling my items. And I was not having conversations with people. The moment that I remember the show that everything changes. Like literally, I started singing Selena song in a show and just start having fun. That moment, everything changes. Like kind of people were like, "Oh my gosh, I love that song." I love that you're dancing. I'm dancing with you. The moment that you start being yourself in the camera and you start kind of creating those connections and that the tribe that is going to follow you for who you are. I think Whatnot is the only platform out there that you can come and meet the seller of where you're buying. If you go to other platforms, you don't even know who the owner is or who is the person who is selling it to. And I think it's not like kind of rock and science or that's a secret. I think a lot of people want like, what is the little secret that I can bring people in? It's mostly like simple, create relationships with people, have fun doing the shows and just be you. Then little by little, it's gonna take you time. It's gonna take you time to build that audience. And as soon as like when you less expect it, people will be like there waiting for you and being consistent. Sometimes having a show at the same time every single day, people like know that you're gonna be there and they're gonna come and buy from you.
I love that. Thank you. Next question's coming from Travel My Closet. Cindy, your story is amazing. How do you track inventory and what you spend and what you sold it for?
We use Google Sheets for all of that. I think we have tried a lot of different things, and the way on how we do it is like, especially when we buy truckloads, we got it manifested. Or if it's not manifested, we kind of try to manifest it ourselves. And we do it everything through Google Sheets.
Yeah, awesome. Next question comes from, let's see, from Sam Dog is asking, what did you do before you had children? What did you have a career or any other experience?
High school diploma here. That's it. No, actually, I was working in a cell phone store where actually I met my husband. I was working for a cell phone store and the retail store selling phones and, literally making contracts for people who ever want to get a phone. Back then, you needed to get a 1 year. I don't have a professional career more than, a high school diploma. And when I met my husband, I become a stay-home mom. And yeah, no, not really.
I love it. Such an incredible, what an amazing story. I mean, first of all, thank you so much for being so open about it and sharing the early challenges and how that kind of turned into like maybe a success beyond your wildest dreams, right? And it's very inspirational. Like I think, I'm reading the chat as you were sharing, and I think, there's a lot of appreciation for you kind of just being open about it and like sharing your, this is a personal story and sharing it with us. So I want to say thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your story with us. And chat, if we can blow it up one more time for our guest Cindy. It was super fun chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. I always love, kind of sharing the story because if I can just inspire one of you right there, I don't know, what are you going through in this moment, but I think just kind of putting our story outside of our heads kind of can inspire one person. And I always tell my husband, if I can just inspire one person every day, with our story, with our struggles, and
Yeah,
probably avoid them a problem that we had before. I mean, I think that will make my day. I think at the end of the day, that is our purpose, just to kind of help each other. And I love Wana community. I'm in love with Wana community. That's why we do the Q&As, trying to do it as much as we can and just to kind of help each other. Because I believe at the end of the day, as a sellers, if we all of the sellers kind of unite, and kind of help each other. And this is just a little call out for everybody who is listening to me today. You're a seller, help another seller. Even if you don't know much, but you know how to create a listing. Probably the other person doesn't. But if you help another person, that's how the way on how you're gonna grow. I remember that I started doing Q&As probably 6, 7 months in, and I barely knew what I was doing it. But people came into my Q&As and I shared the struggle, and people kind of start helping me with that. And I think that if we do it this way, you're gonna grow faster. You kind of take the hints from another seller. And I always tell this in my Q&As, just take the time today to message 5 new sellers and just message and tell them, hey, I'm here to help. If you ever need help, just message me. I love to say that. And I have to hear amazing stories when like literally sellers start helping each other and how they start growing. And I see a lot of people in the chat that I remember they were coming to my chats and Q&As when they barely starting, and now see them with 100, 150 people in their shows and having a successful show that makes me just so happy. So thank you for having me and kind of, sharing this platform again for sharing our story.
For sure. Thank you so much, Cindy. And yeah, I think you inspired a lot of folks here. Consider us inspired. We're going to rate you. How's that sound?
My goodness. Okay, so by the way, this is her first day. Hopefully she
Oh,
doesn't.
really? Oh, God. Well, do you want us to rate her, or we can rate somebody else if you don't want?
Well, let's go rate another new seller because I know she's gonna get scared. It's her first day. Okay, so she's like kind of learning, but no, let's go rate another new seller who is like ready to go. And as soon as we're ready with her, she can get rated. But she
Okay. Do
will
you want to take a look on Whatnot and pick one that
go.
we can rate?
Let's see who is a new seller right now that it's on, and we're gonna go pull someone right now. Let's see.
It's very, very, very kind of you. I mean, chat, she says what she does, right? She's for community. We could have rated her own account, but she said, let's rate a smaller, newer seller. I think that says it all.
Okay, so let's see. There's many different sellers, but here's one person has 5 people.
All right, let's do it.
Sydney Styles.
All right, cool. All right, chat. Let's like Cindy said, let's bless her, show her you don't have to spend any money. Just like Cindy said, even a word of encouragement can really have an impact on somebody. I agree with that a lot. You don't know what they're going through, and you don't know what they need to hear. So with that, let's do this. Cindy, thank you. You're a legend. And I'm grateful that you took the time to talk with me today.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, chat. Peace. Thank you.